I think that's something that makes this quite a hidden challenge, is because it's deeper than surface level.
Today, we are confronting a formidable enemy that haunts the path of every entrepreneur: procrastination. I think everyone is guilty of procrastinating, but this adversary, if we don't keep an eye on it, can halt our dropshipping progress. But don't worry, I've got Lewis with me today, and we're going to be discussing the tactics that we've learned about how to avoid falling into the trap of procrastination. So, Lewis, are you looking forward to diving into this topic today?
I am. Yep, it should be a good one. I know procrastination is a bit of a silent dream killer. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yes, I think everyone is familiar with procrastination, but why do you think it's such an issue with so many people, and in particular with people starting an e-commerce venture?
Yeah, well, dropshipping and entrepreneur and the world of entrepreneurship, but specifically online entrepreneurship in general, if you think about it, it offers such immense levels of freedom, which we as society have not ever really been used to before this age, right? And it's that kind of, that lack of structure can be a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it's amazing, but on the other hand, it's quite scary, because it's like, well, we have no structure now. It's totally on us to steer our ship of our, what used to be quite a straightforward, structured career. If you think back to when we worked in jobs, or if you are currently working in a job, or if you're at uni, or you've been through school, up until that point where we decide to take the leap into entrepreneurship, usually we've been assigned a job or a task, and we're told what to do, and it's all very straightforward, and it's you follow the path. There's the standard kind of career progression that everybody follows, the normal path. But that freedom is a blessing and a curse, because yes, it's the greatest benefit of entrepreneurship. It means you can travel the world. You can just pack your laptop in your rucksack and get on a plane and off you go. But also, not necessarily motivation, because I don't think procrastination comes from a motivation problem. I think that it's just a vicious mental cycle that is deeper rooted and usually comes from a fear of what might happen if you take action. What happens if you start to accumulate wealth and money? Will people treat you differently? People going to attack you for it? What's the fear deep down? And I think that's something that makes this quite a hidden challenge, is because it's deeper than surface level. We don't just procrastinate because of, on a surface level, we don't want to do the task. Typically we do. We have the motivation and the will behind it, but there's something there stopping us deeper. So that's what we'll try and discuss in today's episode, and uncover a bit more about that and how you can specifically catch that in action and what you can do to rectify it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. I think it's so structured as you go through school, uni, or a job, and suddenly you're into the world of entrepreneurship, and there's no one there to tell you what to do, and so it has to come from self-discipline. So it's a very interesting point that you make.
Yeah, and often we don't realize that that's what it is. We spend, days watching YouTube videos or researching stuff to do with e-commerce, whatever we're into at that time. We listen to all of the podcasts, maybe we read a book about it, and then suddenly this weird thing happens where we find ourselves like, okay, today I'm going to reorganize my desk, because in order to be a successful entrepreneur, I need to have a really clean, tidy desk that everything's laid out in the right way. And then you've done that and you think, well, actually the living room probably needs a quick hoover, so I'll just go and sort that out, and then sort some stuff out in the kitchen and rearrange the fridge a bit. And you realize you're not actually moving towards anything. And those are kind of maybe exaggerated examples, although I've definitely been guilty of those types of things. Sometimes they fall into the digital realm as well. So we're doing the equivalent of cleaning up the living room within the digital world. So we're, rearranging things within our project plan and remapping different goals. And we're focusing on things that aren't actually actions that will lead to the end result. And so we just kind of get caught in this holding pattern, and it's no wonder we don't move towards the goal if we're not taking actions to get there. And many people treat their dropshipping businesses just like they're a hobby initially. And so the expectation is, well, if you treat it like a hobby, then it will probably pay you like a hobby. You've got to ask yourself, do you want to be the type of, if you're in a football team, do you want to be playing in the Sunday league pub team? And are the benefits that come from that okay for you? Do you just want to do it for a bit of fun, but you're not really going to take it that seriously? Or do you want to play in the top Premier League division? Because if you do, there's going to be a different level of sacrifice required in your life to reach those heights. But obviously, there are huge benefits that then come with that down the line that are much longer lasting. So yeah, it's just kind of a question really. Are you willing to sacrifice some of the things to get there? I know when I first started my e-commerce business, I was still working at my old job at the time. And I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I would get a phone call maybe the evening before, or, an email saying that I'd been put on an assignment to travel up the country and, had to like get trains for hours, or get in the car and I'd be on a really long rainy commute off to some office, somewhere else in the country, hours away. And I guess at the time, because I knew that I had made the decision, I now wanted to be an entrepreneur and I wanted to run an e-commerce business, I could do all of that stuff with a smile on my face, because deep down I had the satisfaction of knowing that yes, I was working on this thing, and yes, I would like nod and smile and go along with it and get the job done in the way that needed to be done. But deep down I was working on something that would set me free. And that was like a level of excitement that it's hard to describe unless you've really experienced it, because when you do, you start to realize that none of the other stuff matters. Yeah, of course, we'll go along and we'll kind of show face and do what we need to do. But deep down, we're really excited because we can see that there's this like cliff face, which once we go past it, the world is our oyster. Like, we've got complete and utter total freedom, flexibility to travel, time freedom, financial freedom. Of course, you don't get there overnight, but once you make the decision to go for it, if you're anything like me and you think, well, once I set my mind to something, I'm going to do it, then it becomes really liberating. And I remember I was happy to sacrifice my evenings and weekends and even mornings before work. Like, after going to the gym really early, I'd then have a few hours before work started. I would sacrifice that time for the benefit of creating a business that I knew would provide me with a better future. And I think I didn't really see it as a sacrifice. I saw it as just the work that needed to be done, the groundwork, the foundations for what was eventually going to replace my income and become a company that I could then sell or, exit for millions one day. But one of the things I did notice whilst I was working on the business, even in those short time bursts while I was balancing it with still having a day job, is that say I had a day to work on things, or even a morning, a few hours before work, I'd start checking emails, which is a terrible move for productivity, because that is just literally little nuggets of procrastination that will just send you down different rabbit holes. You're letting someone else just, rule your day if you do that. First thing you do is look at the inbox. Then I'd, like I said, like reorganize the room, or be like, no, I need a new laptop to be able to run this. So I'd like shopping on there and researching and looking at YouTube videos for that. Then I'd clean the house. So I'd be like, oh, the car needs cleaning actually. So I'll go and sort that. And you realize that it was the procrastination was masking the thing that I didn't want to do. So my brain was, and this is what our brains always do, they try to keep us in our comfort zone and they try to prevent us from leaving it. So if we get the idea of like, or if we're told that we need to perform the action of, okay, you have to call suppliers to get these suppliers to sign with you to build your e-commerce business, or you have to follow some steps to get your ad campaigns live, you have to put your website out there to the world, you have to, all of these things, I think your brain starts to take over and be like, oh, or you could just do all the kind of the busy work and put that off and kick that out into the long grass, as they say. So I wanted to focus today on actions that we can take to help us avoid and overcome procrastination. So one of the hacks that really helped me to focus the mind was to join a training program, and it was for 3 reasons. Now, number one, it meant that I could get around others who were already way ahead of me, which what that does is kind of normalizes the result. So when you're surrounded by people who don't do what you're aspiring to do, you are the odd one out. But when you can get around other people who are further ahead and are where you want to be, they're all traveling the world, they have their work from their laptops, they have replaced, doubled, tripled their income, and they all earn it all online now. Suddenly you're the odd one out for not being in that position. And so you quickly want to conform to the tribe and be like, well, I need to up my game then, because I need to get there. So it's like using that same psychology, but to your advantage rather than to your detriment. The second reason why joining a training program was amazing is the investment in it was the secret. People always say, oh, I can get, those videos online on YouTube. And I'm like, well, how much do you value them if they're free on YouTube, right? So when you invest in a program, for me, it made me sit up and pay attention. I was like, okay, I've dropped a few grand on this here. Like, I need to treat this now like it's inevitability instead of a hobby, and really go for it, because I want to see an ROI. I want to make it work. I'm holding myself accountable to do that. And I think it means that the other people that you are surrounded by as well are a lot more serious, because they've all had that same level of foresight to invest in themselves and take their own future seriously. And then the third reason, and there are many reasons obviously, but the third reason why training program was so important was the clear steps that I needed to take helped me avoid procrastination, because it meant that when I got out of bed in the morning and I was like, right, I've got 2 hours to work on the business before work starts, it wasn't like, oh, let me just see what YouTube videos have come out, or let me listen to a couple of podcasts. I'd still be where I was 6 years ago right now if I did that. Instead, I was like, no, module 1.1, module 1.2, module 1.3, like just fire through the content that is laid out in a sequential order, sequential blueprint. And there's no ambiguity. There's no way that I can then get lost. And so that was definitely one hack that I think so many people write off. And it's a shame because that there is the one thing that will hold them back from being able to experience the results and get up and running much faster. And by the way, speaking of treating it seriously and not as a hobby, we actually did an episode on this, I think, a while back, didn't we? So it was episode 27, titled How to Launch a Dropshipping Business with Zero Experience, where we talked all about starting off on the right foot. So that one's worth listening to, episode 27 of the Dropship Unlocked podcast.